Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Quiva and I'll be the webinar admin today. Before we get started, I'll quickly go over some housekeeping items. We'll be following up with everyone after the presentation with a recording of the webinar. At any time during the presentation, you'll be able to post your questions in the Q&A tab. We'll answer these questions at the end during our Q&A session. If we're not able to answer everyone's questions during the Q&A period, we'll make sure to follow up with you individually. And now, to kick things off, I'll pass you over to our wonderful presenters.
Amazing, thanks Quiva. Welcome everyone to the webinar today. We're really excited to have you. Thanks for joining us. And our goal for the session today is to have an engaging discussion around artificial intelligence and the role that it plays in the marketing technology landscape, both today, as well as what that role could look like in the future, both near and long term. And to have that conversation, we've got a great panel assembled today that I'm really excited about, representing various relevant voices. And so including that of the software provider utilizing AI, so that's Philippe d'Alberti with Media Valet. We've got the AI technology and services provider, represented by Tucker Burns with Microsoft. And most important of all, we've got the customer who consumes the AI service within the software. And that's Suparman Wajaja with Verizon. So we're going to do some quick introductions and then we're going to jump right into it. So I'm going to be your panel moderator today. And my name is Fraser Charles. I'm Director of Global Strategic Partnerships at Media Valet. And I spend my time broadly here identifying, structuring, and building partnerships with other organizations that ultimately help Media Valet deliver more value to our customers. Philippe?
Hi, I'm Philippe d'Alberti. I'm the head of product here at Media Valet, and I basically spend all my time working with our customers, our partners, and our internal product managers to identify new ways for DAMs to keep delivering more value as the technology and the market stack already evolves.
Tucker?
I'm Tucker Burns. I'm a principal program manager at Microsoft in the cognitive services portion of Azure. I specifically focus on custom vision and computer vision API, so our pre-built and customizable object detection and image classification technologies, both on the strategic and technical side. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Tucker. And Suparman?
Suparman Wijaya, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm a technology manager. I'm head of technology for our in-house agency at Verizon. So we're responsible for application, technology, infrastructure, and operational efficiency for the department.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, guys. Looking forward to our conversation. So let's get right into it. To start us off, Tucker, maybe you could just level set and give us a brief overview of AI and machine learning so that we're all on the same page. And let's use this as a jumping off point for the conversation.
Yeah, sure. So first, from a customer perspective, there's no real distinction between AI and ML, in my opinion, though some might say otherwise. But in both cases, you're leveraging some algorithm to automatically reason over data, creating knowledge. And I mean data in the broadest sense. It might be audio, images, tabular data, or video. The root goal is generally to drive automation of some process. It's all about improving efficiency and achieving scale. Do things you couldn't do before, or do things you used to do faster and better. For example, transcribing all online meetings, making that content searchable, scraping sentiment from millions of tweets or other social media posts to understand large-scale trends, automatically personalizing content based on users' characteristics, or indexing images based on automatically extracted metadata.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tucker. I think that helps just give everyone sort of a common level of understanding on the topic today. So the reason I think we've got over 250 people joining us today is that AI is obviously a really hot topic. And it represents, to me, there's this immense potential for organizations to capitalize on. And that relates to everything from internal decision-making to delivering an exceptional customer experience with a product. So this question is going to be for each of the panelists. What do you think are the key forces driving the development of AI? Suparman, maybe you can kick us off with the voice of the customer.
So this is Also, from my personal observation, I think there are two forces, in my opinion. Number one is, jump in computational power. So in the electrical engineering world, there's a very popular Moore's law. It's a coin from a very famous Gordon Moore, founder of Intel, if you guys know him. So it basically say that, the number of transistors in the microchip double every 2 years while halving in price. So over 40 plus years, this theory has proven to be true. So that increased the amount of power that the consumer and the industry receive. The second force, in my opinion, is the abundance of data. So for as long as I remember, companies have been mining data from their customers' transactions. Not too long ago, we built data warehouse, data mart, and so on and so forth. And then there's big data lake recently. But it always takes a lot of work to manually make sense of this data.
Superman, I think you make a really good point there. In fact, the explosion of data has been so large in recent years, and that it's expected that there will be 160 zettabytes of data by the year 2025. Even if we had every person in the world analyzing that data manually, we still couldn't make sense of it all. AI is necessary to enable organizations to understand or leverage their data better, which is a big part of why Microsoft invests. It maps directly to our mission statement, which is our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more.
Yeah, I'd say on top of that, really in the marketing space in particular, what I'm seeing is not only does text data is increasing substantially, but also visual data. I think organizations are, as we know, are creating literally millions of images, videos, and everything is happening at insane rates right now. And when you create the content so quickly, I think it can become nearly impossible to manage effectively all those content without some sort of AI to help.
Yeah, I agree, Philippe. I think I've seen a stat somewhere that shows the of the immense amount of data that Tucker is referencing, basically everybody is referencing here, roughly 90% is unstructured. So meaning the images, the audio, the video that people are generally consuming at really incredible rates today. Are there any other key drivers you see, Tucker, just sort of being in that role where you're actually the one, or your team is the one developing these AI services?
Yeah, definitely. Another driver I see is the need for cloud providers and companies in general to differentiate. Both cloud infrastructure and software are becoming increasingly more commodity or table stakes, and providing high quality AI is a great way to provide extra value to customers and drive preference.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thanks. I think so that gives us a good sense of kind of what's pushing this huge investment in the market interest in AI. Let's get on to the next question here. So what role do you think AI should play specifically for marketers today? Tucker, why don't you kick this one off from sort of that platform technology perspective?
Yeah. The big part is improving understanding, whether it's of your content or your customers, by creating rich indexes and clustering into distinct segments, driving efficiencies in task completion like image search or content suggestions based on contextual information, and tailoring content to your customer segments automatically based on real-time signals, and then analyzing the resulting downstream impact.
Yeah, that's right. I think, and to build off of Tucker's point here, I think there's a huge drive for content personalizations. And I think with this, marketing teams need significantly more data and metadata to truly drive these personalizations. And as we know, manually and extensively tagging assets is going to be time consuming there. And I think in addition to this, so much content, as we said, is created from scratch, also instead of being reused. And that's especially the case with video and photo production. I think, as we know with COVID-19, business agility is paramount. And marketers now need to turn around campaigns at lightning speed even faster than even before, right? And so artificial intelligence provides a huge opportunity here for these marketing teams to start leaning into the reuse of photos and videos and other content they're creating. And that's helping to reduce the spend, boost the ROI of their campaigns, and really get their campaigns out of the door as fast as possible. And finally, I think brands also need to be extremely careful lately with their assets. And AI can add another kind of safety guard really into it before the assets are published. So for example, AI can read some very small text that you might not even notice when you look at those assets in the first place.
Interesting. So Parman, any insights from your perspective?
Yeah, so I would love to see AI help marketers in two key areas. The first one would be efficiency. What I mean by that is on the most basic level, it actually has enabled us to do mundane, simple tasks much faster. So like identifying common objects, colors, transcribing that you guys mentioned just now. The second thing is integration. I think it should help us bring together other disciplines into marketing. For example, marrying a marketing strategy with data from other groups, faster than traditional way of, data mapping, etc. So, in other words, allow us as marketer to do our job faster, reducing dependency of others, such as data integration to complete before we can start, gaining any efficiency.
Got it. Thanks. So it seems like there's a couple key themes there. There's the improvement of understanding of data. There's the personalization of content for the relevant target customer or the target stakeholder. And there's kind of this efficiency, automation, integration idea. So there's definitely something here to capture. AI as a technology is relatively new. And I think often new things, whether it's technology or otherwise, they can be met with resistance. And I think particularly when the fundamentals of that new thing, AI in this case, aren't really well understood across all the different stakeholders. And ultimately, I guess, this poses a risk to the success of the project, as well as the intended outcomes. So the next question I want to pose then to the panel is, what are some of the key challenges that, from your individual perspectives might prevent marketers as a user group from actually adopting AI technology at this point?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I think one of the challenges I see in the DAM space in particular is really that the insights that AI provides can be seen maybe too basic for certain industries. So for example, we work with a lot of manufacturers, and basic AI like auto tagging capabilities can recognize details like bolt or pipe, which is too vague if that's what you really built, and that's all the assets will be bolt and pipe. So that's not going to help you really if you want to extract any value. So this is where we get a lot of value from Microsoft Custom Vision. So we can provide this kind of customers with the AI insights they need. And it takes more data for sure, but large organizations already have all that data available for them.
Thanks, Philippe. I'm happy to hear that customers are getting value out of Custom Vision. Another challenge I see is the inherent uncertainty around AI. Learning how to work with non-deterministic systems is different and requires a different approach to integration. How do I tune the precision and recall of a model appropriately given my scenario, and whether I have a human-in-the-loop workflow? What in-product feedback mechanisms are there to enable improvement over time? For example, in image search, I might prefer to get more results for a specific search query, with some of those results being incorrect, because I can ignore those easily rather than the alternative of missing out on content. Conversely, if I'm automating decisions in a real-time process, I'm going to be much more risk averse and require higher precision, since I don't have the same opportunity to interject.
I also want to add, the concern of privacy has been an issue that we cannot overlook, especially in the fields of image processing.
I totally agree. Privacy, compliance, and security are paramount in the development and use of AI. Microsoft is deeply committed to the responsible and ethical development and use of AI. To call it a few specifics, we're GDPR compliant, our data processors versus controllers for most cognitive services, unless explicitly called out otherwise, and have a suite of security functionalities like TLS 1.2, private links, VNet, and customer managed encryption keys, among other things.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really excellent point here with regards to privacy. And I think we here at Media Valley are taking this very seriously as well. And I would say, like, for example, face recognitions, like, it's a great technology, and that, we all know that works extremely well. And you can see some easy use case with it. In the case of a university, for example, it might make a lot of sense to quickly find the dean of the School of Medicine, for example. But does that make sense to have it go through all your students and start to identify races and gender and all of that, really? So those are the questions you need to ask.
Yeah, it's a really good point of discussion. So Parman, I know you have a few insights from your unique vantage point of running a team within a creative organization. So, maybe a little bit more unstructured, maybe, people need the purview to do things a little bit differently in that type of organization or team. Do you mind sharing how those challenges that you experience may be similar or different to some of those that Philippe and Tucker are talking about here?
So from my experience, many, especially in our organization, still look at AI as new technology. Many are very impressed, but they're not convinced that it will replace humans, especially in the field of creativity. It's usually because AI has been focused on data and not implementation of the technology in the marketing field. So, for example, there's one product that claims that AI can intelligently crop image on behalf of human for various media sizes, but it makes a huge assumption that it knows the intent of that image usage, right? For example, it focus on a person when the intent is to sell a piece of furniture, sneakers, or whatever. So focusing on the person doesn't make sense in this example. So typical challenges are also like to extract requirements out of our users.
Thanks, Soup. I think, one of the things that's interesting to me, and maybe slightly different than the specific technology needs for AI to be, implemented or deployed that were mentioned by Tucker, is that human element of stakeholder buy-in. And so as someone who's implemented the use of AI today, do you mind sharing some of the steps someone can take to prove up the value of AI and actually drive adoption within the team and organization?
It's actually very concise from my point of view. So relate the needs of your user, identify what goals that they're trying to achieve. In other words, I guess understand the use cases and then build the AI technology around it. So for example, is it improving efficiency for them, or is it enriching data? So those are the factors that I think will help.
Got it. Awesome. I think that's great advice. It sounds like it's one of those simple things where simplicity doesn't always necessarily equal easy. But thanks for that. Thanks for the insight there. I think that's really valuable. Okay, let's go one layer deeper from sort of looking at the general marketing technology landscape and discuss for a moment, where does AI fit distinctly into the DAM space? Philippe, maybe you can lead this one off for us.
Yeah, for sure. I can start this one. I think, the main use cases today are mostly around enhancing discoverability and accessibility, right? So, and there's two things to consider here. The first one is the amount of time needed to tag individual assets. And as you know, it might take years to manually tag all your existing assets. And that's not even considering the new assets that are being created and ingested every day. The second is the kinds of tags that you use, right? And even with a great taxonomy and an enhanced keyword strategy, it can still be a challenge to add metadata assets without bias. The tags that you use might not be the ones that your end user is searching. And so I think this is really where AI comes in the form of auto tagging. And for Media Valley, we use Microsoft Cognitive Services, and maybe I'll let Tucker jump in and explain a little bit more of those features that Microsoft offers there.
Definitely, thanks, Philippe. I'll break it down into a couple different spaces. First, we can talk about the image analysis with the support of large-scale image tagging and object detection, recognizing many different concepts and objects as a baseline capability. High-quality OCR or text extraction, both handwritten and printed, and then also the ability to create those custom models to tailor to your business needs, as discussed previously. On the speech and language front, transcription, translation, and speech generation all come to the top of the stack. And then lastly, just want to touch on reinforcement learning. Well, you could think of it like personalization being one of the key use cases. These are, the areas in which we kind of speak of our technology.
Nice, thanks, Tucker. What are your thoughts, Suparman, as the end customer using the solution and, very likely looking to achieve specific objectives and outcomes with that solution?
So it absolutely has made them as a tool much more relevant. What had been in the past where we waited or rely on images that have been manually tagged, now you can have machine tag it for us, and it expanded the use of the library by many folds because you have a lot of images that now have values. So I think we are looking forward to function like similar or relevant images. So I think that will help a lot in the future.
Got it. Excuse me. That makes a ton of sense. I think what we've just covered there quickly was a lot of the concepts of how AI and DAM can improve it, and are improving it. Philippe, maybe could you share just a few examples, kind of practical real life examples of how customers today have implemented AI in their DAM solution and maybe some of the results they're getting out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is where, to me, like, as working with our customers is what I find the most fascinating part is seeing it in use, really. So I think, we've seen AI being used in many, many ways already, and some of them are quite creative, really. I think so. To start off, I mean, sport entertainment, for example, we've seen AI coming in to detect sponsors, brands on the billboards, like, after the games, for example, and to quickly show ROI and even try to attract new sponsors. So that's a nice way to get new sponsor in by showing them the results. Healthcare organizations as well. We are seeing like those kind of text and assets concept being used as another safety net, really, to make sure customer information is visible on the photos that are being shared. And sometimes you just have to think about those personal informations that could be still sitting on the prescription that is on a photo that is somewhere that you're going to share, and the AI is coming in just to make sure there's no personal information. It's another layer really on top of it that is being used there. We've also seen other organizations using video intelligence and as Tucker said, like the transcription services that comes with it, as a way to provide better accessibility and think about it from the context of WCAG compliance and all of those, or even starting to replace a little bit some of their translation services, because once you have a transcript, then you can add like another layer of translation into it. So that's again making that content more discoverable. And I think, we also had some nonprofit organizations using our more like audio intelligence concept to go through all the entire audio archives that they have and find ways to start monetizing those audio archives, really. So those are the kind of a few examples that comes to mind, right?
Right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing those, Philippe. It's interesting to see how people are, leveraging an accessible technology today to get real results. So far then we've covered, kind of AI as a technology, where it sits and how it acts today in the MarTech and the DAM landscape. So let's get into probably the most exciting part for me here, which is the future of AI within the marketing context. So this is kind of a broad question, fairly high level, but where do you see AI going next for marketers in general? Suparman, again, from that customer lens that you can share with us, how about you kick us off on this one?
I believe AI has so much potential in marketing. So right now, and as we speak right now, it's very specific to a tool and application, right? So DAM or AI for photography, image processing, for example. So AI is looked at as a value add, or some people call it extension or side benefit of a tool. But that itself, like we discussed before, has already provided a lot of benefits for the customers. it's been like a huge draw to the technology, right? But I'm foreseeing that AI to, bubble up and become a holistic offering, encompass multiple tools to provide a solution, so a system for a business problem. So, a very general example is, let's say campaign strategy, they like for us to execute a campaign strategy, they don't just include a DAM, right? It includes all the tools, financial, projection, all the whole tech stack and all delivery channels as well. AI will greatly benefit us when it actually can integrate all these pieces together for us.
Got it. So there's an element of connectivity that you're looking for to really leverage those benefits.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Philippe, as a head of product at a MarTech SaaS company, what do you think about how AI can change the game relating to your area of expertise, which is how marketing teams are creating, managing, and distributing all of their digital assets?
Yeah, I think we are really at the really beginning of AI, really, and I think so far, what we've seen is that the main use cases have always been around discoverability and accessibility, and with this in mind, I think there's still a lot, that AI can help with and will continue helping with, and I think to name a few, I would say like visual search, so seeing you just add an asset and search all those assets from it, similar searches, and really like the concept of searching with natural languages. And so far we've been relying on tags and all that, but I think with natural language it's an evolution in terms of like kind of that discoverability and accessibility there. But I think AI could also come in to facilitate anything around ingestions, and especially with content moderation. So think about like user generated content, for example, or even starting to detect some anomalies or duplicates, all that you're just using some AI ingestion pipeline through that. I think there's also, lots of benefit that we could see on the distribution side of things. And I think I talked a little bit about personalizations earlier, but that's probably the biggest driver in terms of like the future to me. So recommendation engine, and you like this asset, you might like this one, and all that. So all that will start fitting into it. I think also all those insights that you're gathering, all that could then feed the creative teams to produce more assets that they know performs really well. So it's like this kind of feedback loop that we'll continue seeing and getting the assets back to the creatives, so the creatives can produce better assets really at the end of the day.
That makes a ton of sense. It's really kind of like an end-to-end cycle there, hey?
Yeah, totally.
That's cool. Thanks, Philippe. Tucker, what about you? So at kind of the platform technology level where these AI services are being developed, both for vendors like MediaValet, but then also for the end customers' use themselves with, someone like Sparman.
Yeah. While AI has been a trend for quite some time with significant investment in both industry and academia, we still are seeing significant improvement in model quality year over year. It's different in the different areas like speech versus vision versus reinforcement learning, but overall, these are leading to less errors and driving more trust. The other big one is the ease of use, not only in terms of implementation, but also easier to understand the results that are coming out of the algorithms, and the ease of customization. It's been said a number of times, the importance of that tailoring to your specific business need. How can we reduce the barriers to entry, application, and maintenance of that custom technology? And lastly, I'd say driving down costs. Due to the decreasing compute costs that Superman alluded to before, based on Moore's law, and improvements in algorithmic efficiency, we see improved ROI for even lower value scenarios.
Got it. Thanks, Tucker. Suparman, I'm curious for your response to this one. Again, through that customer lens, what's the ideal state of how AI contributes to, your objective and your team's objective there? I can imagine you're considering many different things in terms of goals, from productivity of the team to, the campaign performance that your team is creating, to optimizing a customer journey. I guess in short, what's the dream?
I'm stealing a word from the slide, relevancy. So what I mean by that is, how do I make this AI technology relevant to my function, or I guess to the business? So if you think of it, AI today out of the box has excellent function, right? But it provides the same function to everybody else. I guess with limited configuration, but I would love to have more controls, something that is more like we can tweak to be more relevant to us, like creating models that we can use for our business.
Right. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. So something a little bit more contextually relevant, and maybe, to Tucker's point of, a cloud service or AI services like Microsoft Azure having to differentiate. Every business that's consuming that technology also has to differentiate. So that makes a lot of sense. Guys, this has been a really good conversation. Just as a final wrap up, I want to do kind of, the classic podcast rapid fire round. What are your final pieces of advice for the folks with us today? In many cases, I'm assuming exploring how AI can help them as marketers. And maybe we can go Tucker, Philippe, and then Superman, you can finish it off.
Yeah, great. My advice is look at your large scale problems, ones that you might be struggling, to handle, or don't try to tackle at all with manual effort. Also look at the areas where you have kind of simpler logic-based automation, which you could, make dynamic, based on contextual awareness.
Yeah, thanks, Tucker. I think, on my end, I'll say bring up your business challenges with your damn vendor. I think you'll be surprised really to hear that AI can already solve quite a few challenges, and you're definitely not alone in this. And so many organizations might already have similar challenges that they tackle with AI. So bring them on.
So I think for me, it's very, I don't want to oversimplify it, but the answer is very simple. You first understand the technology and the capability of AI. It's the same with any other toolkit that you get. But more importantly, like, how do you use this to answer your business need? I think that would be the key factor in to be successful in implementing AI.
Guys, I just want to say thanks. That was a really great conversation. For me, it's interesting and fascinating to hear all of your different perspectives, given your unique roles in the different type of organizations that, they're all intrinsically connected to either the development or consumption of these AI services at some level. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to do a quick Q&A session here. So for that, I'm going to hand it back over to Caoimhe.
Brilliant. Thanks, Fraser. We've had quite a lot of questions, so if we don't get around to answering your question, don't worry, we'll make sure to follow up with you individually afterwards. To kick things off with our first question, what implications do you think AI will have on content personalization?
Philippe, do you want to step in for that one?
Sure, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think, I'd say there's probably the most obvious one. So it's, easily augment your assets with more attributes. With personalizations, you definitely need more attributes. And with AI, you can add like color and common objects and all those really. So more metadata means better discoverability and better personalization at the end that you can deliver to your end user. But I think there's also this, kind of recommendation engines that comes into play. And that's really where, again, you like this asset, you might like this one. So all that is feeding into like, delivering a better personalization content at the end of the day by learning of, what do you like at the end of the day, and how do we help you serving assets that you help you like more really. So that's what I would say.
Brilliant. Thanks, Philippe. We have another question here. How much data do I need to train my own AI models?
Tucker, that's probably a good one for you there.
Yeah, great question. It's very scenario dependent, so it's hard to give a blanket answer. It's based on that task complexity. Maybe for custom transcription, you just need to provide some samples of your business specific kind of terminology, and maybe some some other content to help the language model tune. Conversely, in the case of, say, building a custom object detector to differentiate between 100 different products that are, in the line that you care about, you might need, a couple thousand or more photos to really achieve the level of quality you want. I think the important message is that it is an iterative journey. So you start with a smaller amount of content, you look at what your quality is, and then you see how you can use the model you've already created to continue improving and speed up the journey to creating that custom AI.
Great, thanks, Tucker. Suparman, this one's for you. What don't you like about smart cropping?
Just to be clear, I like it, but I think in order, again, like I go back to the same point throughout the whole session. We need to make it relevant. So, for example, I believe AI will make assumptions when they crop image. And in general, let's just make believe we have a picture of a person, running. In general, AI might just, focus on the face or the person and crop it for us depending on whatever orientation or size that we need. However, so that will work, like for in general case. But let's say if we want to use this image to sell a product. So in that case, I want it to be focused on the sneakers or on the activity of this person. So in that case, we want to be able to, pull the lever on the AI to say, this is the intent, and we need to be able to do it more intelligently, I guess. So I think the key here is the ability to control and, not just in a general sense, but also in a specific use case for the user. Otherwise, it is, it's excellent. The tool will help us in many ways, but it will be more useful when we can use it to our specific needs.
Great, thanks for that. We have another question here. What kind of training would you suggest for marketers who are not confident in their AI skills?
Is it for me?
Whoever wants to take it?
Yeah, I think probably, Philippe, do you want to jump into that from more from a Dan perspective at a piece of marketing tech?
Yeah, for sure. I think, in terms of training, I think it really depends of the level of AI that you need, right? So there's AI that comes out of the box, and this one, there's basically no training involved. You just ingest your assets, and those assets, gets augmented with more metadata, and that makes it more searchable for everyone using your DAM. So that's, like there's no training involved in that. I think, the next level up is depending, I think, if I reuse my example with bolts and nuts before, if that's kind of the level that you need, then of course you need to, kind of train those models. And usually it's either we provide you tools to just do that training, or you work with your vendors, and your DAM vendor will help you and, kind of build those models together. There's also partners that do that. There's, it's a full ecosystem that exists around that, where, we can train those assets and make those assets more discoverable for you. So at the end of the day, for the end users, it should be just similar as using a regular tag, but this is more using AI. On our end, what we are really working hard on is making sure this training concept is as easy as possible. And we don't want AI to become something, oh yeah, AI, it's complex, it's difficult to use. Like, we don't want any of that. So, everything that we have is around our UX is to make that easy and straightforward.
Brilliant, thanks, Philippe. Thanks for that, guys. Unfortunately, that concludes all of the time we have for questions today. As I previously mentioned, if we haven't already answered your question, don't worry, we'll make sure to follow up with you shortly. So thanks again to our wonderful panelists, and thank you to everyone who joined us today.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.